1970, we sure we did before fruit. Knowledge for selfish, for sure we did do the work. Auditorium to basement of all faculty of law. We did represent, stand tall anywhere we go. Work hard and we shine, commitment, dedication. Neurosurgery, comedy, music, Nollywood. SOTK, Dr. Call, MC Casino. We did represent, stand tall anywhere we go. Great Uniben, great Uniben, great Uniben, great Uniben. Hello viewers, welcome to another episode of the Uniben Alumni Series. As you know, this is a show where we celebrate alumni of the great University of Benin while we also try to promote the institution. Before we go into the interview, before I introduce the guest we have today, we just have a bit of news coming from the alumni branches in the United Kingdom and that of North America as well. There was a change in leadership for both branches, both in the United Kingdom and in North America. And for the United Kingdom, Dr. Tony Agbons emerged as the chairman of the steering committee, while my humble self emerged as the secretary of the steering committee, were to lead the association in the next 1 year, while that of the North America branch, which we normally call Ubana is now being led by engineer Osase Osifu, one-time student union president of the University of Benin, and Dr. Governor Ame was elected as the secretary of the branch. Wish us all the best. Hopefully we're able to promote our association to the next level. And for today's guest, we have an associate professor of law at the University of Derby in the United Kingdom. Is also a visiting professor to Benson Dausa University in Benin City, Nigeria. He is Dr. Eghosa Ekhator. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Dr. Eghosa Ekhator holds a Bachelor of Law LLB from our Faculty of Law of the University of Benin. Sir, I will start with this question about your choice of law. What really influenced you to study law? How did it all start?
Okay, I think the irony is that for me, law was not actually my first choice. I went to UBSS. I was very good in history, so I love history as a subject. So when I was growing up, I didn't want to read history as an undergraduate course. So law was the most professional course that if you're in the arts class in UBSS, you're just pushed through it. And also thinking back as well, I've always been I wanted to read the course like political science or history, but I always been influenced by the legal profession as a young person. As I was growing up, people like Gani Fawayemi, people like late I forgot his name, I think was Ishola was a very notable MBA activist, chairman in the early 90s and late 80s. So I was influenced by those sort of social activists, sort of legal practitioner. But my first choice was actually towards history or political science. But at the end of it, I fell in love with trying to read law, and I felt doing a professional course like law will also give me an avenue to also study history, study political science, because law covers all of these sort of areas. So that's where I found myself into law. So.
Okay. Let's talk about your academic journey at the Faculty of Law, University of Benin. What can you say were those milestones when you were in that faculty? You spent 5 years there before going for law school.
Because we had a couple of strikes as well. So
okay, that's true. And you made mention to me some days ago that for you,
Now you're an associate professor. You said that you were not the brightest in class. And
No, I wasn't the brightest.
okay.
I was playful.
Okay,
I was
okay, you are not the most serious when it comes here. You
yeah.
just took life as it comes. But today you are doing well. So, your experience at the institution as well, how did it propel you to what you're currently doing?
I think I just provide a bit of background to that. Before I go into Uniben, I got to 48 in jam. Before I go into Uniben, I was
Oh,
quite
yeah.
training. So even when I even did jam when I was in UDSS, I think it was SS2. Can't
Yeah.
remember. The highest I enjoyed, I was 261. I had to 22. So when I go into Uniben, I was just like, when you just, I think for me, I just felt like just to have a good time, just play. But for me, I got the totality of university experience.
Okay.
I read, but I think I always tell younger colleagues and younger students that if you're in university, try and focus more on your studies. For me, it wasn't difficult for me to pass. So I didn't push myself as a student, but I've always been active, research conscious. I love research. I love to read. Growing up, we had a massive library at home, so I was exposed to books. And even as a young boy, I read all the historical books at home, all the history books. So I was very, very good with stuff like that. Maybe think that's why I even was able to read law, literature, and the rest of them. But when I got into uni, I started playing politics from the first semester. So I became a member of the LOSA Congress in my second semester. My second year, I was director of socials. So I was just playing politics, like localized LOSA politics, and I think for a while I took my hands off the plow, but at the end of the day, I did well. I passed, I graduated. So looking back, when I had the opportunity of doing my master's and PhD, I felt that I needed to make up for lost time. So, so another thing as well in my career as an academic, I have empathy for students a lot because I always tell students, if you are a student, you don't need to be the smartest or the brightest. I always look beyond the way students are behaving. I always look at the bigger picture. I always try and support students. I've mentored a lot of people in the academic space, and you can mentor loads of academics and younger, what we call early career researchers. So for me, yes, I was not the most serious student, but my experience as a student was involved with totality of the university experience. So the politics I played at Uniben, even was localized, exposed me to the reality of life. Exposed me to backbiting, exposed me to a couple of things, which most of the guys that play those politics, those days are the same leading politicians now. So I think if you're in a university environment, focus on your books, but don't lose sight of the social skills as well. So many of the skills you are going to get, you don't get them solely from the classroom. You need to make friends, you need to network. Some people get it from church activities, from religious activities, from social activities. Whatever you are doing, ensure that they are clean extracurricular activities, and get as much transferable skill sets as well, in addition to your first aim of coming to school to come out with the best possible grade. So having the best possible grade doesn't mean you're going to have the best career in the future. So you need to also develop yourself going forward, improve your skill sets, and as much as possible, try and get the necessary skill sets and experience that you need to get to the next level.
Okay. You're in the academic now. Was that your dream from day one? Did you?
No. I think literally I just fell into my career. So I think yes, I always loved research. I love to read. Even when we were in university, I love to write. I wrote my dissertation, that my project that time, University of Benin, I wrote it by hand. I did the research. I enjoy research. So when I finished my master's law school, I just felt, okay, let me just do a PhD. I had the opportunity of doing a PhD in University of Benin, and I had very, very good PhD supervisors. Dr. Eghosa Ekhator was one of the leading scholars on environmental justice, and Dr. Mike Viner was very, very good as well. So two of them were like my mentors. So when I got into the research, it was the right thing for me, because I'm not a conventional lawyer. I don't go to court. I'm like more of like a research focused lawyer. So I prefer the research aspect of it. It comes a lot easier, and and I think I've been able to make more impact. So I enjoy research. I enjoy what I'm currently doing as an academic.
Okay. You spent quite some number of years in UDSS. If we combine that with Uniben, that's more than a decade you spent in the University of Benin as a whole. Yeah. What can you say you learned from the institution? What did you learn outside the four walls of the classroom, outside the blocks in UDSS, outside the faculty of law? What can you say?
I think we start from UDSS. The time we went to UDSS, I think what it gave to a lot of people. UDSS, you had the rich, you had the poor, you had the people from the upper class, from the lower class. You had the guys who live in campus, the guys who live off campus. So different communities, different. I said some of my longest friends have been friends I made from Emotan primary school to UDSS, right on to university. As for me, I think that was what I really got from the ability to network and be able to fit in within different spaces. And from a UDSS perspective, to get into UDSS at that time, for us who were non-academic children, the cutoff was higher. So it was more difficult for us to get into UDSS. So like academic was just like that was meant for you. So I think that was for me was, and then there was that UDSS or Federal at that time. So the opportunities were limited, and UDSS had a very, very good reputation. I think most of the skill sets I developed, even my research skill sets, started from UDSS. The quality of the teaching, the quality of the assessment, the quality of the teachers, the quality of the equipment. So it was very good. And also going to UDSS and being in university campus exposed you to the reality of university environment. So before many of us got into universities, we already are aware of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Before we got in. So that helped us to actually be able to move in a way, in the right places at the right time. So some of us, you had older friends or older siblings were in university already. You go to campus to go and see your friends. So for a lot of us, just a continuation. So I think for me, who was an outsider coming to UDSS was good for me. But I think if you flip it, people were living on campus who went to UDSS, who went to St. Albert's, who went to I was an external person coming onto campus. So I think it was very good. I have no regrets going to UDSS. I think that was one of the best things that happened to me in terms of the quality of the teaching. I remember when I got into Uniben my first year, when we were doing political science at the basement. So then the lecturer will just be talking and people will be complaining, "Oh, excuse me, sir, come back." Keep like I was like, didn't you guys take notes in? So when I was doing the exercise, we take our notes. When teachers are talking, you jot down the key points, you go back, you do your reading, then you develop your notes yourself. So when you go to university, those skill sets are already there. People who finish from UDSS. So then in terms of university, it was also good as well because I was exposed to a lot of positive influences in University of Benin. I met a lot of people, met a lot of friends, and also the quality of teaching as well was also very, very good in University of Benin. So when I came to the UK to do my master's, it wasn't much of a difference. The only difference I had at that time, many years ago when I did my master's, was that in terms of the technology, we didn't have the technology in Nigeria. In terms of we're not using laptop to type our assessment. So, but apart from that, there was nothing, wasn't too much trying to transmit from a Nigerian environment to a UK-based environment for masters. So I think it was a good experience. We had a couple of one or two bad experiences, etc., which is normal when you're in a university environment. But the totality of it was very, very good as well. And also you meet people, you meet friends, you make friends, lifelong friends as well.
I quite agree that especially for the UDSS aspect, it actually prepared us
definitely
smooth transition into the university. And I think it was that time they used to say, those of us in UDSS, we usually have the post-UM, when we wrote post-UM during our time, that we usually have the post-UM questions before that our teachers were don't even set the questions, so they just felt we had that we were just prepared.
It started from JS1 to SS3.
Yes. And let's talk about your academic work, your research. Your academic papers have been cited by prominent organizations like the United Nations Refugee Agency and the UK Parliament. Can you share some insights on how your research informs policy and practice?
Okay, thank you. Okay, I just provide my main research area is international environmental law and natural resource governance. And as a Benin man, I'm currently doing research on Africa international legal history, the role of Benin Kingdom in developing international investment law. So, but my key research area is focused on international environmental law. So I do stuff around right to environment. I do stuff around environmental justice, climate justice, etc. I also have a bit of um, experience and expertise in international investment law. So, in terms of my impact of my research, my research has been impactful in different ways, not just in the UK, not just also in Nigeria as well. I think the national gender policy in Nigeria recently they cited my work. The one for the UK Parliament was when the UK UK House of Parliament Committee on International Development in Africa, they did like a public consultation. So myself and a colleague from the University of Derby submitted a paper. Our paper was accepted, and even when the head of the committee, the chair of the committee, wrote a public letter to Kemi Badenoch when Kemi was the Secretary of State for Trade a few years ago. They actually cited our work about 4 or 5 times in that public letter. So then I've had a couple of citations, different places, sometimes even some different law firms in the UK. They come to me in terms of climate justice, climate education. So yes, in terms of impact, yes, I've had impact. But I think for me, it's not just the impact that I'm having in the research space or policy. I think is my biggest sort of achievement is the mentorship as well, because the collaboration. So what normally happens is that for a lot of African academics who are based in Europe or based in the West, there's this issue of legitimacy of your research. If you're doing research focus on Africa, my research is predominantly focused on Africa, but I do a lot of UK based research. I'll come to the UK part soon. So in terms when you're doing research in Africa, for example, if you're a lawyer, if you're a law academic, so most of us tend to do doctrinal, what we call like you just read your books, you just make proper theories, etc. So there's this disconnect about what people are writing. If you're in the UK, about what is happening in Nigeria, what's happening.
Yeah.
So what I've tried to do is try to mitigate that by collaborating with different agencies, with different NGOs. I have a very good relationship with several NGOs in Nigeria. I've done a lot of training activities with several NGOs. I'm the chairman of the Nigerian Law Association, Commission on Teaching International Law and SDGs. In that role as a chair, I've organized loads of events within Nigeria and outside of Nigeria. I've mentored younger academics, African academics based in the UK and Nigeria. I've collaborated with several universities, University of Cape Town, Riara University, all sorts. So for me, as a UK-based academic, for your research not to lose currency and for you not to lose your legitimacy as a scholar, you need to ensure that your research is a reflection of the reality on the ground. That means you have to be current what's happening in Nigeria, current what's happening in Africa. So that's, if somebody, let's assume you're writing on right to environment, for example, in Nigeria, and somebody who practices law in Nigeria, or somebody who's a lawyer in Nigeria reads your paper, and your paper is not a true reflection of the reality on the ground, that means there's a lot of credibility now becomes a problem. So that's what I try to do. And also from a UK perspective as well, I've mentioned the UK Parliament stuff, but I've just recently developed an environmental justice toolkit with colleagues, my former colleagues at the University of Chester. So it's like a toolkit, like a framework that we developed that public and private sector firms or companies can adapt in the UK when they are doing their environmental impact assessment. Think of the quality basis of the assessment. So we have a website. We've done the launch. Yeah. That in terms of the research space, we've done a little bit. So
yeah, I can see. You've talked more about the UK Parliament, and you touched about your work with agencies in Nigeria. I want to talk about your role as the visiting professor in BIU, Benson Dausa University in Nigeria. How do you think that your expertise, your experience especially, can be leveraged to support the development of legal education in Nigeria?
There are a couple of ways to answer that. Yes, I just became a visiting professor to BIU this year, so we are planning a couple of programs, in September. training activities, support activities. So I think one way is capacity building that needs to be done for the academics as well, for the students as well. I think a major issue that sometimes, from a Nigerian perspective, Nigerian situation in terms of, it's very difficult to be very good, to be a very good researcher in Nigeria. Not that scholars are not good, but the environment can be, when there's the light issues, access to get access to materials is very difficult and expensive. For many of us who research abroad, we tend to get easy access because our universities subscribe for it. So what we've tried to do is to try and provide support, try and provide materials for colleagues, and try and even collaborate with Nigerian-based academics. I've done a lot of work with Nigerian-based academics to also ensure that they're able to get that support. Yes, in my own little way, I try to provide some mentorship. I try to provide some training. As I said earlier, as the chair of Nigeria Law Association, Teaching International Law and SDGs Committee, we've done loads of training. I've been a faculty in different training organized by the Institute of Advanced Legal Studies on Just Transition and all different throughout to in terms of international law. And also in my role as a deputy editor in chief of the Journal of Sustainable Development Policy and Law, which is a Scopus Index journal, which is the first Nigerian law journal which is indexed to Scopus. Scopus is like this repository of reputable journals that if your journal is not indexed in Scopus or Clarivate or Thomson Reuters, it's not seen to be a reputable journal. So our journal, the Journal of Sustainable Development Policy and Law, which is run by African University at the OGS Institute, which I'm deputy editor-in-chief, is the first one that's been indexed, the first Nigerian law journal to be indexed in Scopus. So in my role as deputy editor-in-chief, I also provide opportunities for Nigerian academics to showcase their work. We try and give peer review. We try, even though we reject papers, we also ensure to give peer review. We've done training for a lot of other journals in Nigeria, how they can improve their journals. And also, when you talked about legal education, so I'm also currently collaborating with the MBA Legal Education Committee, which is headed by Professor Damilola Wisan, who is the president of the Nigerian Law Association. We are currently developing a special issue to be published by the Journal of Sustainable Policy and Law, which I am the editor of that special issue, myself and Professor Lawi. The special issue is on the impact of AI on legal curriculum, for example. So those are some things in my own little way that I do to support Nigerian academics. So I'm very prominent in Nigerian. Even though I'm based in the UK, I see myself predominantly as a Nigerian scholar.
Okay. Lastly, still on your giving back, this time to Uniben. Recently, I think you gave out some copies of your books to the Faculty of Law, and you have been doing the mentorship thing. Can you shed more light on your giving back to the institution? I know you do not like to publicize what you do, especially when it comes to giving back to your institution, but we would like to know what you have been doing.
I'm very. I'll just say this out publicly. I'm very close to University of Benin. I'm very. I'll call myself like I'm almost like a staff of Uniben. So whatever I'm doing for myself. And also, I don't. Some people know this. About 10 years ago or 11, I actually got a job in Uniben as a lecturer, which I didn't take off. So
it turned us down.
Yeah. So what I'm very, very, because that's my alma mater. I have a stake in the institution. So in 2018, that's on the first day. I donated a book last week. No, 8th of July, a couple of weeks ago. In 2018, I actually did a project in Uniben when I got some funding from the UK government to do a training on sustainable development goals. Implementation of sustainable development goals in Nigeria. So at that time, I collaborated with the SDGs office in Uniben. It was led by Professor Eghosa Ekhator at that time. So we actually did like a massive workshop. I think that we used the Senate building in Uniben. More than 100 people attended. DVC attended at that time. So we even had like an artistic sort of representation of sustainable development goals. It was a very, very, very fantastic event. So after the event, and actually some people that presented papers at the event, and I also did an edited book, which was the first edited book on the implementation of sustainable development goals in Nigeria, which was co-edited by myself Professor Eghosa Ekhator and Dr. Seville Miller, who was also the collaborator on the project. So what I did in that book, or what we did rather, that 50% of the contributors for that book were Uniben staff. So we made sure that, and that was published by Routledge. So it's actually even, the book is actually even indexed in Scopus as well, because it was I think it's the first book to be published by an international publishing firm on implementation of SDGs in Nigeria. And it's not just a legal text or a law text. You have people from geography, from humanities, from law, with like a proper interdisciplinary approach. So that's some of the things I do in terms of officially as well. Then, so this year, we also actually wrote another book, the Sustainable Human Rights and Sustainable Development, Global South Perspective. I was edited by myself and Dr. Newman Richard, who is also a graduate of the University of Benin, and the third editor is Dr. Chisa Rejik, which is an associate provost, University of West of England. So the book is actually on the first book that deals with issues around taxation. How can taxation be used as a coherent policy framework to promote sustainable development in the global south? So some of the countries that we use for our case studies were like African countries. You have chapters on Nigeria, chapters from Asia, chapters from Latin America, from the international level, and you have some leading scholars in that space. So when the book came out, books are very expensive as well. To get a copy of that book was like maybe 150, 160. So when I came to Benin a few weeks ago and I did the project with an NGO in Benin as well, I was like, let me just go to Uniben and give a copy. At least the people, when they get to the library, they can actually read the book. And so also, if you've written something about Africa and African scholars cannot access what you've written, they're basically writing books for the West to read about Africa. So why we, as much as possible, need to ensure that African scholars can read works on Africa written by African scholars who are based abroad. So one way to mitigate that is to at least give out the books, complimentary copies as well. Then that is what I do in my official base. But on an official base as well, I collaborate and mentor loads of generations of University of Benin staff. So we have a stake in that. Even though I'm not University of Benin staff member, I think as somebody who went to UDSS,
yes, I want the ambassador. Yeah.
So we have to. So the Uniben has been part of my that building, Uniben, that institution, UDSS has been part of my life for a very long time. So the least we can do is to give back. It doesn't cost us nothing to do that. So we are happy to do it.
Very much, sir. I really appreciate it. Thank you for this wonderful conversation we have had. Thank you. That's the end of the interview. I've been speaking with an associate professor of law, University of Derby. He's also a visiting professor at Benson Dausa University, Nigeria. Is Dr. Eghosa Ekhator. Continue to subscribe to our channel. We'll bring you more exclusive interviews of Uniben alumni. Bye for now.
1970, we sure we did the forefront. Knowledge for selfish, for sure we did the work. Auditorium to basement of all faculty of law.
If you're in a university environment, focus on your books, but don't lose sight of the social skills as well. So many of the skills you are going to get, you don't get them solely from the classroom. You need to make friends, you need to network. Some people get it from church activities, from religious activities, from social activities. Whatever you are doing, ensure that they are clean extracurricular activities and get as much transferable skill sets as well, in addition to your first aim of coming to school to come out with the best possible grade. In terms of university, it was also good as well because I was exposed to a lot of positive influences in University of Benin. I met a lot of people, met a lot of friends, and also the quality of teaching as well was also very, very good in University of Benin. So when I came to the UK to do my master's, it wasn't much of a difference. I am the editor of that special issue, myself and Professor Lowry. The special issue is on the impact of AI on legal curriculum, for example. So those are some things in my only two way that I do to support Nigerian academics.